Well, hello again, everyone, and I thank you so much for coming back to join me for another episode of the Mr. Healthy Habits Show. Now, we left off the last episode on a bit of a cliffhanger, and we will get to that very soon here. Living the good life as in being one from the heart and not so much one from the mind. This morning, we're going to start off our discussion with this concept from Daoism, from the lectures that I've heard, in reference to a passage that was read from the Tao Te Ching that goes something to the effect of how the five senses make us deaf, dumb, and blind. The five colors make our eyes blind. The five tones make our ears deaf. The five tastes dumb our palate. And we're going to discuss exactly what this means. Now, in the Tao, when they say that the five tones make our ears deaf, what they're really saying is that we need to go about life in a way that allows us to let go of preconceived notions. See, you may hear music from another country and think that it sounds out of tune. And that is because that we were raised to appreciate a certain kind of music. We've already have this idea in our head of what food should taste like, what music should sound like, what color is. You see, what they mean when they talk about color is how we tend to label things as blue. But there's many different shades and variations of blue. Are they all blue? Yes, they all are blue, and that's exactly the point. There's many different shades and colors and sounds in life. And what they're trying to emphasize here is how we need to let go of ourselves and just use our bodies to absorb what is around us and take it in. Taste food in a way that allows you to enjoy the food that is actually there without positing from the mind these concepts of this is good, this is bad. It is not good, it is not bad. It just tastes different than what you're used to. When you look at an art form, the art form is neither good nor bad. It's thinking that makes it so, to quote William Shakespeare. So you may look at a work of art and look at the colors in it and determine, I like this, I don't like that, rather than just appreciating it for what it is. See, we need to live a life of appreciation and not one of thought from the mind, where we take our own inner workings and things that we've learned from our lives and superimpose these things onto reality. See, you may have been raised with a certain type of art form, a certain type of literature, a certain type of music that you've learned to appreciate. And now when you hear or see something different, it shakes you to the core. It shakes you to the point where that's not what I'm used to. Maybe I don't like this. And we start to judge. See, it's a very difficult thing to do, but it does take practice, where we need to learn to drop our judgments. Drop our judgments about the food. Drop our judgments about situations and circumstances that come into our lives. Drop our judgments about the way other people live, the way other people dress, the way other people talk, and the things that other people do. You may meet someone along the course of your life and think that this person is weird, this person is strange. No, they are not. That person is just different. There's many people that might think that about me, and I may just be different. I try to be guarded against that, though, and not consider myself too different from everyone else. You know, the Dalai Lama, in a very great chapter in the Book of Joy, talks about how we are all the same, and how it is when we view ourselves as different from one another that we put up barriers between each other and prevent ourselves from making those connections because now we see them as different from us. And he's very, very correct in that respect. And so here we're talking about how, yes, things can be viewed as different, but we need to let go of our judgments of them because they are different and learn to appreciate them as being part of life, as being something we can learn from, as being another aspect of our day to day that we could enjoy and expand our minds and expand our hearts and our souls and experience something new rather than look at something with judgments from our past and who we are. You very well might listen to me and then think I'm off my rocker. I'm crazy, but I'm just different and coming from a different life experience, just as you are. And we should appreciate one another rather than letting our differences divide us. And when they talk about the 5 tones make our ears deaf, that's exactly what they're talking about. You might see someone give a speech, and because that speech isn't where you come from, now suddenly we've superimposed our wants and desires and our concerns, our own personal concerns, onto this speech and have made judgments about it rather than just appreciating it for what it is. In a sense, we've made our ears deaf now. We've made our ears deaf to another way of thinking. That is largely what they're talking about. See, we can't let our ideas about what life should be, our concerns and our judgments and our desires occlude us from what is actually out there, because there's a whole world of things, there's a whole universe of things that are different from us. Every single person that you see on the street has their own unique perspective of the entire world, of the entire universe. There's 7 billion different universes walking around among us, and that is something that we should embrace and enjoy, especially the different and the weird and the ones that we don't get and the ones that we don't understand. You see, we can't let our own personal taste, our own personal preferences divide us and keep us from enjoying the world in a spontaneous way around us. See, when you drop those preconceived notions and conceptions and just listen to a speech for what it is, taste a food for what it is, observe an art form for what it is, you're allowed to live spontaneously, live in harmony with the universe, and just accept that, rather than living from the mind. You're judging from the heart. You're experiencing with the heart rather than experiencing with the mind. So this has been one of the many themes from Taoism that I've enjoyed. The idea that it's our senses and our perceptions that really occlude us from reality. It's like when you look at something and you see it as a thing of beauty because it reminds you of things from your past. It triggers you in certain ways that make you predisposed to looking at the situation in the manner that you do. And these are things that we could, with practice, learn to let go of, learn to look at something with and hear something and appreciate something without any type of preconceived notions. And that is what's going to allow us to appreciate life in a more general, broad spectrum, to appreciate a broader spectrum of color and a broader spectrum of art forms and music and things in general that come into our lives, movies and entertainment forms. But not only that, just the day in general. I mean, when you have a task to perform and that task is uncomfortable, a lot of times what I'll tell my son when he gets hurt, he'll trip and fall and bang up his knee or something. I've told him before, it's only pain. That's all it is. It just hurts. It just hurts. Don't worry. I mean, it's just a feeling. It just hurts. You'll move past this. This isn't something that's going to last with you throughout your life. It's only temporary. And now we're going to move on to a topic that I've really enjoyed throughout the courses of these lectures, and that is how to live from the heart and living a virtuous life, not one from the mind, not one of calculation and thought, but rather spontaneously living from the heart, as they say in the Tao, living with Wu Wei, the practice of Wu Wei. And exactly what does that mean? So in Taoism, there is a proverb that says that the rule of the sage fills the stomach but empties the mind. Fills the stomach but empties the mind. Now, what exactly is meant by this? What is meant by this is that the best way for us to act, to take action, to deal with others and circumstances that arise in our lives is from the stomach and not from the mind. It is not action through calculation that allows us harmony with the world and with the universe and with the people around us. It's action from the stomach. Now, I'm going to equate stomach to heart. I like the way heart sounds better. And honestly, I think that's pretty much where they're coming from and what they mean. Now, you could think of this as in action performed from the heart is much more virtuous and beneficial and harmonious and appreciated by others than action from the mind. Action from the mind comes through calculation. And I'll explain to you here what I mean. Now, in the Tao Te Ching, they talk about the Tao and the way. And a passage from the Tao Te Ching goes something to the effect of, when the Tao is lost, virtue appears. When virtue is lost, kindness appears. When kindness is lost, justice appears. It's quite an obscure passage, as most of these concepts are. So I'm doing the very best I can here to find ways to relate these to you, where they could be understood as I understood them in the lectures that I heard. Now, what's meant by this is when we lose our heart, when we lose that ability to act from the heart, virtue appears. Now, there's an analogy that was given in the lecture that I'm going to borrow because it really helps to make sense. So imagine you have a friend and that friend is ill. They're sick and in the hospital. And you imagine that they would appreciate a visit. So now you go visit your friend, and then your friend tells you, hey, I'm glad to see you. Thanks for coming. And then you tell your friend, oh, don't worry about it. I thought about it from a moral perspective and realized that the way to live virtuously would be to come visit you. So that's why I'm here, is to exercise virtue. Well, hold on now. This is one thought too many. It cheapens the act that we've just done. It cheapens our goodwill. It is out of harmony and out of balance, and it did not come from the heart as much as it came from the calculation of the mind. See, virtue is a concept like many others created in the mind. And when virtue disappears, then we fall back on kindness. Well, now I came to visit you because out of kindness, because I knew it was the kind thing to do. And then when kindness disappears, justice appears. Justice appears after kindness. Okay, well, I didn't do it because it was kind. I did it because out of justice, because it was the right thing to do, because I know that these are the things you're supposed to do to people, and this is how you treat people. So I came out of justice. You see, they emphasize how in Western culture we tend to put justice and kindness so high up on the morality ladder that we lose sight of what really does make an act moralistic or virtuous. And that is when we act from the heart. It's when we don't conceptualize about virtue and justice and kindness. And you just go and visit your friend because it's from the heart, because your heart compels you, because you're following your heart, which is compelling you to go and visit your friend. That is true caring. That is harmony with the universe. That is righteous action. It's not about these concepts that we create in the mind. All those really do is pull us away from harmony and cheapen our actions down to a different level rather than one from the heart. See, this is why I've really enjoyed this passage where they talk about how it is important for us to act from the heart and not through calculation of the mind. You see, the only time that we need the concepts of virtue and justice and kindness and this type of morality is when our heart fails us. It's when our heart fails us that we need the mind to tell us how to behave. Or in many ways, it's really the mind conceptualizing all of these things about the heart. It's the mind either pulling us away from the actions of the heart or steering us towards something that we could possibly be afraid of. But I mean, I would make the argument that that is our heart that pushes us to do the things that we are afraid to do, not our mind. It doesn't come from conceptualization. You see, we need to practice acting from the heart and not from the mind. When we have a disagreement with someone or a situation that we're walking into that we perceive to be difficult, we need to look at the situation and not calculate with the mind. Deceit, dishonesty, and things of that nature, things that make one not a very good person, are all things that come from the mind, not from the heart. If you follow your heart, even if you didn't make the right decision, at least you know that you were guided by your heart. All of the negative connotations about life, like deceit and anger, all come from the mind. And not to say our mind is a bad or negative thing. The mind could be used for very positive things. But the way the world is structured around us, the way we've learned to use our minds, it's oftentimes used for calculation that pulls us away from harmony rather than that spontaneous life. You see, acts of calculation do not align in harmony with the universe. It's only spontaneous action, action that we are compelled to take that allows us to align ourselves with the harmony that is and that is around us and to live a better, more peaceful life. Spontaneous action comes from the heart. Spontaneous action comes from the heart. It is not action through calculation. Nothing spontaneous is really done through calculation. That's acts that we are compelled to do, acts that are driven by the heart. It's only when we start to calculate and our mind starts to process things and analyze the situation that we pull ourselves away from that spontaneity, that we hesitate and start thinking of the what ifs and the whys and the hows. And we cheapen ourselves away from this harmonious, spontaneous life for a deprecated life that is about calculation and thought and what we should do. Spontaneous action from the heart is always going to mean more to those around us than acts through calculation. Acts through a calculated mind that really only works against us in many ways to occlude us from reality. The Taoist perspective is one that we need to drop all of that. We need to let this go. We need to let go of these ideas of how to live virtuously or what is the kind thing to do or the justice thing to do, and just act from the heart spontaneously. We don't need all of these conceptions and all of these thoughts in the minds that allow things to come in and be judged by us, as in this is good, this is bad. I'm gonna take this out of the background and put it in the foreground and judge it, rather than just acting spontaneously from the heart. So, man, that was a mouthful, and I thank you guys so much here for joining me again for that one. Please follow me at philosophical.reminders on Instagram. That's at philosophical.reminders. Follow me wherever you're listening to this podcast. And I look forward to doing more episodes for you about this subject. I'm going to do my next episode on the Tao Te Ching, which is going to be primarily about letting go and having an empty cup and approaching life with an emptiness rather than a fullness. It's also going to be about many different other concepts that I need to go back and research my notes, because I mean I'm working throughout the day and I've gotten so many great ideas and concepts that I want to share with you guys, and these are just some of them. So look forward to the next episode, because I promise you it's going to be just as good as this one if you enjoyed it. Thanks again so much. I appreciate you guys.